Okay, so the convicted felon, insurrectionist, piece of garbage, Donald Trump, has been in office now for, just over a month, approaching a month and a half. And he is absolutely destroying this country and doing great damage to the world. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about the economy, because we have some economic news, very important. I want to talk about Social Security briefly, and then I want to talk a little bit about a group of Americans, largely supportive of Donald Trump, who are in the finding out phase. And they have been for some time. I don't know how much they're really willing to admit as of yet what a colossal mistake they made. I doubt they're there yet, or probably never will be there. I mean, after having been screwed so thoroughly in the first term, to support this guy again, I don't think these idiots are ever going to wake up. So anyway, let's begin with the economic news. Now, I try not to play too many clips of Donald Trump, and I'm going to play one now, but it's short. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit through too much of this idiot. But I want you to hear what this moron had to say today, and then we'll discuss. So watch this.
So we're going April 2nd, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words,
okay, so unless Donald Trump chickens out at the last minute, as he very well may, there are going to be 25% tariffs slapped on two of our biggest trading partners, Mexico and Canada. And he thinks this is a good idea because he is an economic illiterate, even though he has billed himself and his mindless cult that worship him believes that he is, one of the world's great businessmen, but he doesn't know the basics of really anything, including the economy. I mean, crying out loud. The man bankrupted casinos. The list of failed business ventures that this man is responsible for it's really too long to keep track of. Anyway, so he's going to slap these 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And as he said in that clip, what did he say? That this is going to force them to build their car plants in the United States. This guy, really, to call this guy an idiot would be to render the word idiot largely meaningless, because this guy is so far beyond idiot. This man is, he's got one foot in the grave. He's a very unhealthy, nearly 80-year-old man. He's going to be around at maximum for less than 4 more years as president. I know, putting aside the idea that he might never leave office, and I'm not casually dismissing that as a possibility, but let's just work this out. Because it's not us that I'm talking about right here. I'm going to be talking about how other countries view this, and more importantly, how businesses who produce their goods in other countries and sell goods in the United States view this. Okay, so they're looking at a man who is going to be president for at most 4 years, a little less than 4 years. And Trump just thinks that slapping 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, any goods imported from those countries, is going to cause car companies who may manufacture their cars in Mexico, for example, that is going to force them to build plants and start manufacturing their cars in the United States. Now, if you are a CEO of a auto manufacturer and you're manufacturing your cars in Mexico, and then Donald Trump does this with the tariffs, or there's a very good chance that these tariffs aren't going to last any longer than 4 years. So if a Democrat, for example, wins the election, assuming we have elections, let's just make that assumption for the purpose of this conversation. We have elections and in 2028 and a Democrat wins. Do you think those tariffs are going to still be in place after that? Hell no. They probably won't even be in place, for as long as Donald Trump is president, because they're going to prove to be such a disaster that he's going to end up removing these tariffs. He's going to have no choice. But let's just assume, for argument's sake, that they last the whole duration of his now less than 4-year term. Then a Democrat wins. On day one, those tariffs are going to be lifted. So if you are the CEO of a car manufacturer, are you going to invest the capital to open up, to build manufacturing plants in the United States because of tariffs imposed by a lunatic that are going to last at most just under 4 years? No, you're not going to do that. You'd be an idiot to do that if that's the only reason you're doing it. You'd be really, really stupid. No one is going to make huge investments of capital because of this guy's stupid tariffs that are going to be short-lived tariffs. Now, maybe if he had won 2 consecutive terms, if the American people hadn't thrown his orange ass out in 2020, of course, then they immediately went back to sleep, and then 4 years later, they forgot what a disaster he was, and they stupidly reelected him again. But anyway, if he had back-to-back terms, and he slapped these tariffs on at the beginning, and these countries were looking and saying, you know what, these tariffs could be in place for 8 years, that might change their calculations. But looking at this and knowing that these tariffs aren't likely to last more than a few years, they're not going to put in the capital necessary to build plants in the United States. It's just stupid. It's not going to happen. So what else? I mean, obviously, these tariffs are going to skyrocket the price of goods in the United States. And we already know that they will, if he does this, there will be retaliatory tariffs placed on American goods. So we will be in a trade war. Now, the other thing that's important to keep in mind with all of this is that these tariffs violate a free trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States that Trump himself in his first term negotiated. He's violating that agreement. So not only does this, really harm our relationships with these 2 countries, but other countries are looking at this and they're saying, here Donald Trump is flagrantly violating his own free trade agreement that he insisted on, that he negotiated in his first term. He's breaking that agreement. Why would anyone enter any agreement with the United States with this lunatic as president? Because any agreement with him is not worth the paper it's printed on. You'd be a fool to enter an agreement with Donald Trump and expect that agreement to be honored by Donald Trump. So this not only damages our relationship with Canada and Mexico, but with other countries as well who are looking at this. And of course, again, costs are going to skyrocket. Inflation is going to go through the roof because this man doesn't even understand what a tariff is. He still insists that other countries pay the tariff. And he still insists that there is some sort of, that Canada and Mexico are ripping us off somehow. First of all, the United States, there's no U.S. money involved here. When we're talking about tariffs, we're talking about this trade imbalance. We're talking about the fact that that American companies buy more goods, import more goods from, say, Canada than Canada imports from us. Well, first of all, Canada is about, 1/10 the size of the United States. So just by sheer numbers, of course, we're going to buy more from them than they buy from us. There's more consumers in the United States. But this is how this idiot thinks. He doesn't even understand what a tariff is. He doesn't even understand what trade is. So if American businesses are importing more Canadian goods than Canadian businesses are importing American goods, this idiot looks at it and thinks the United States government is somehow getting ripped off in that. This guy is a blithering idiot. It's not an act. He's really this stupid. So what effect has Trump's comments today about the imposition of these tariffs that are supposed to go in place tomorrow, what effect has that had on the stock market? Well, let's take a look here. Got my computer in front of me here. This is CNBC. Dow tumbles 900 points as sell-off intensifies following Trump's confirmation of tariffs on Mexico and Canada. So the stock market, boom, because of this idiot and his tariffs, because he's a moron who doesn't understand anything. He just understands being a bully, and he thinks that he can bully other countries into submission and there won't be any negative consequences to the United States. Or maybe he doesn't give a damn if there's any consequences to the United States because he figures, I never have to run for office again. I don't know what's in this guy's mind. And at this point, I don't much give a shit. He's a disaster. He's a moron of the highest order, and he's going to continue wreaking havoc on this country. Let's talk about another story in the news today. Here is once again an article from CNBC. Headline, Doge actions may cause Social Security benefit interruption. Let me read a little of this to you. Social Security has never missed a benefit payment since the program first began sending individuals monthly benefits more than 8 decades ago. But the recent actions at the U.S. Social Security Administration by Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency are putting monthly benefit checks for more than 72.5 million Americans at risk. This according to the former commissioner of the Social Security Administration and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. He said, quote, ultimately, you're going to see the system collapse and interruption of benefits. He said, I believe you will see that within the next 30 to 90 days. People should start saving now. Okay, I do not want to in any way make light of this. This is where it really gets real for a lot of people. If this happens, there's a lot of people receiving Social Security benefits who live paycheck to paycheck. What are they going to do if their checks don't come? And you know what? A lot of those people voted for Donald Trump. But a lot of people didn't vote for Donald Trump who are also going to be, because I no sympathy at all for those people who voted for Trump, because this is what they voted for. Now, they may be too stupid to realize that this is what they voted for. A lot of them sit on their recliners hour after hour with Fox News on, just, corroding what's left of their brains. So they may be far too stupid to understand that that's what they voted for, but it is. And I say many times, voting is not just a right, it's a responsibility. And these blithering idiots did not take that responsibility seriously. And they're going to suffer the consequences. But a lot of people who had no part in electing Donald Trump are also going to suffer as a result of this. And I will also point out that Elon Musk, speaking of idiots, was on with one of the dumbest people in media recently, Joe Rogan. He was talking with Joe Rogan on his podcast, and he referred to Social Security, meaning Musk, as a Ponzi scheme. So there you have the former, what was his title? The former commissioner. The commissioner of Social Security warning that what Elon Musk is doing is going to result in a collapse of the system. And here you have Elon Musk, the unconstitutional co-president, calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme. So that's what's going on there. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about a group of people who are in the finding out phase. Whether they have really recognized it or not, they're suffering the consequences. This is an article from the Kansas News Service. Headline: Funding freeze leaves Kansas farmers unpaid for work they already completed. Farming in Kansas can be clouded with uncertainty, like harsh weather and limited natural resources. But current funding freezes have added a new variable and left some of them with empty hands. Some farmers have not been paid out for work they already completed under contracts signed last year. At least millions of dollars are left in limbo. After the administration of President Donald Trump ordered a funding freeze of the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration, waves of federal funding have ceased. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has tied up funding, blah, 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 blah. Bill Shaw, owner of Shaw Feed Yard in Ashland. Now, it doesn't say whether Bill Shaw voted for Donald Trump. And I certainly don't know whether he did or not. But he lives in Kansas, and he is the owner of Shaw Feed Yard. If you own something called Shaw Feed Yard in Kansas, the chances that you did not vote for Donald Trump are astronomical. So it's a good bet that he did. And if he didn't, then a lot of his farmer buddies who are getting screwed here, you know damn well they voted for Donald Trump. Anyways, Bill Shaw, owner of Shaw Feed Yard in Ashland, has a contract worth $600,000 for rural energy development. He said he never thought twice about the government holding up its end of the contract until now. Quote, now the USDA is telling me I may not get paid, and I don't understand how that's possible. Look, Bill, it's not the USDA, it's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump who's doing this to you, okay? The USDA was not on the ballot last November, but the guy who was going to control the USDA was. And the only reason the USDA is doing this to you, Bill, is because Donald Trump is president. And if you voted for him, and it's a pretty safe bet that you did, this is the natural consequence of your vote. So if you voted for Donald Trump, then you are getting exactly what you voted for. And what you will not get from me, Bill, is any sympathy whatsoever. You voted for this, live with the consequences. There's people that did not vote for this who are now scared to death that because of you or your friends who voted for Donald Trump and or your friends, there are people today scared to death that they're not going to get their Social Security checks pretty soon because of what you did. Anyway, I think I've gone long enough in this video, but yeah, that's just today. And that's not even all the news I wish I could get to today. This man is a human wrecking ball, destroying the country on a daily basis and wreaking havoc on the world on a daily basis. And it still shocks me. It's still hard to believe that the American people actually voted for this guy. It's just, but we are surrounded by very, very stupid people in this country. Very selfish people, very racist people, very bigoted people, people who just immerse themselves in hate day in, day out. And also just a lot of really, really dumb people who voted for Donald Trump because they were watching TikTok, as I reported on a woman the other day who was watching TikTok and saw a video of Donald Trump promising free in vitro fertilization. So she voted for Donald Trump because of a TikTok video. As I said, this country is full of idiots, and we are suffering the consequences. When your country becomes as stupid as our country is, it doesn't go well for that country, and it's not going well for ours. But I thank you for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.